Hey everybody, my name is John. I've been working on some new stuff. So I was looking at different ways to make item sorters because I guess I'm on an item sorter kick right now. And so I came across what I think is a new method that I don't think a lot of people have looked into yet. So we all know that if you have a dropper facing anything with an inventory like a chest, the dropper can try to push the items into the chest and it'll do that silently, right? So as long as the item can go into the chest, it'll be silent. And right now we don't hear it clicking, and the reason why is because I actually have something in the dropper that cannot go into the chest. So I don't think a lot of people are aware of this behavior, but so I'm trying to, push the stairs into a chest full of redstone and it can't go, so the dropper is silently being activated and the stairs can't go anywhere, right? So it's just stuck there. So I figured out how to use this, this method as a way to make an item sorter. So here, in place of what would normally be a hopper, I have the dropper going into a chest, right? And you can see I have a hopper below it. So with this simple little circuit here, with a comparator and a repeater, we can actually fire the dropper before the chest at the bottom, or the hopper at the bottom, has a chance to pull the items out, right? So if we just put something in there, you see it goes in there. How many rails do I have? Okay. So there's all 5 rails, so it does it pretty quickly, right? So this is a item sorter, a multi-item sorter that I made based off of this, right? So you can see, if we get rid of this, you can see it's the same setup as I have on the ground there, right? You have a hopper going into the dropper, going to the hopper, going into a dropper, and on and on and on. Now, if we were to compare this with a normal hopper item sorter, we're using the same amount of hoppers, okay, because both of these are, this is a 3 chest system with an overflow at the bottom. So this is 3 chests with an overflow at the bottom. The only difference is that we have hoppers, or droppers, between the hoppers. So that's going to make it a bit taller, twice as tall. The difference is that it is, slightly faster. So one of the ways that you have to make a system like this is you always have to have an extra hopper at the top. And this is like my other, item sorters that I call trickle down, because you don't have to use any special clocks or anything. You can put your items in at the top and they just work their way down and go into wherever their chest is, And the way that I made these, you just take power coming off the 2-tick repeater, have that coming to lock the hopper in the front. Well, on this one, you can actually just use the comparator to lock the hopper in the front. We don't even need that dust. Okay, so whenever you put an item in, so we'll just take all of these. Okay, so whenever you put an item in, this powered block here is, locking this hopper, so you can only have one item pass at a time. And it's completely silent, because within 1 tick, as soon as the item goes into this dropper, it's going to be, pushed into the chest. So it's fast enough to where the hopper below it can't even pull it out without this, the hopper's not being locked or anything. So it's a pretty cool little design. It takes up a lot of space. The way that I determine the speed of one of these, you just take a hopper, put it into your input chest, and we're going to just put a stack of items in here, okay? So if we put a stack of 64 items, the items are going to be pushed into this chest at hopper speed, right? Because that's a hopper. So we can count how many items, are stuck in this chest, and that can determine how fast our system is actually working. So this is going to be 32 items. Okay, you see it hit 32 and now it's starting to count down. So that means that by the time half of the items, made it into the sorter, we only had half left. Okay, so you can tell it's, half hopper speed, which is a little bit faster than one of these. This is less than half hopper speed. Okay. That's more like, 35, 36 items, something like that. So, it's a little bit slower because you have to wait for the hoppers to actually push the items into the chest. With this, within one tick of it hitting this dropper, it's pushing it forward. Alright, so from that design, I started looking at, doubling them up, because you can actually, this is a one wide design, you can actually put a bunch of them next to each other. And from that, I realized that you could actually make a hopper speed multi-item sorter. So even though it is a bit bulky, if you have a setup like this, to where, because you obviously can't have both dust coming up here to power these blocks, right? Because it's not going to work. So you just use one to power the block with the torch. So what we're doing is locking and unlocking these two hoppers sequentially, So one's locked while the other one's unlocked, and vice versa. And that allows it to double up, the rate that we're actually pushing into the chest. Because right now I have both droppers pointing into this chest. So anyway, this is a full hopper speed item sorter. So if we just go ahead and do the same little trick and put a stack of mossy cobble. We put a stack of items in here. So you can see that as soon as they get into this chest, they're being pulled out. So that's how you know that this is a hopper speed multi-item sorter, right? Okay, so this is another design. This is full hopper speed. And this is, completely silent. All of these are going to be completely silent. So getting into some other designs, we have this that I designed is not silent. It's more compact, but it's the same half hopper speed, but because it's so compact, your comparators are powering multiple repeaters, which are powering multiple droppers. So anyway, not the greatest design. This is a little less compact, but this is the same as that, except we have the redstone pushed over to the side. So this is a completely silent design. So same as the other one, and you can put double chest here, to make it a single column of double chest. So completely silent, and also half hopper speed. So I tried to kind of make a larger system based on some of these, right? So this one turned out to be terrible. It's very complex, and because I had to make a special little clock here to synchronize both of these, because this is two of the noisy ones, right, put together. So I had to make a little clock up here to synchronize everything. Excuse me, and this is actually slower than half hopper speed, so this is the same rate as a normal hopper item sorter. So sometimes it makes noise, sometimes it's quiet, depends on where the items are. I mean, it works, it's slow, makes a lot of noise, right? Okay, so with this one, I came up with this little system here. So it's pretty bulky, considering you can still hear that one clicking off. So you can't put these right next to each other, so it's going to be larger. If you were to make another section here, you can see you're going to have to skip 2 blocks. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to make, but, you know, it's still not all that great, considering it's taking up so much room, you know, and it's still only half hopper speed. Alright, so next I have one based off this design, which is the, you know, the slanted design. It's a little more compact, and the way that I have this arranged is that instead of, you know, one chest being in front of both of these droppers, like in this version, we just have one chest in front of one dropper and one chest in front of the other dropper. So it's a little bit more compact as far as storage, but that makes it, instead of being, you know, hopper speed, that makes this back down to half hopper speed. Okay, because anytime you have the 2 droppers facing into one chest, then you're going to be full hopper speed. But in this case, you know, one dropper, one chest, one dropper, one chest, so half. So it's not a bad idea. So taking this design, that's really, you know, easy, compact design, so I came up with both of these. So the issue is that they're really tall. You have a lot of wasted space in the middle. Other than that, they're pretty easy to do. If you were to try to connect multiple of these together, you'd have to do, you know, an arrangement like this with your redstone, have a repeater in the middle. And the reason why is because you have to be able to lock these top hoppers, and the signal to lock them has to come off of the, you know, their individual comparator. So if you put a repeater here, the only signal it's going to be getting is from that center comparator there, you know, because the other 2 comparators here aren't strong enough to actually get a signal there. So that might slow it down a little bit, but, you know, not by much. But either way, you know, considering that this is only a 9 chest design, I mean, it's alright because it's kind of skinny, but, you know, it's still a little tall. And this is, you know, that's the top of the whole design. I mean, what is this, like 10 or whatever blocks tall, you know? So anyway, this is another design using the 3, except instead of making them 1 wide, I'm skipping a block between them. And that'll give you a little different arrangement with the chest here. So you can see how we have, because I pushed the center stack, I pushed that down 1 block. Excuse me. So you can see how we have the chest here coming down, and, you know, they're all on different layers, whatever. So these aren't needed, but I put them there just to show what it would be like. You know, if you didn't have, I mean, if you had another stack next to it, then it would look alright. Otherwise, this looks kind of weird. But that's a 9 chest design. So anyway, the design that I really like out of all of these is probably this design. So this is a hopper speed, right? So it's pretty compact. This is a 10 chest design, and I like this. I think this is probably the most useful for survival because, you know, you can just climb up it like a flight of stairs. You know, you can in fact put stairs in the middle if you wanted to. But so we can go ahead and test this out, and I can show you. So this, your overflow, but I'm just gonna go ahead and take some blocks from the end here, and I just put these redstone lamps here just so you can, you know, see what it looks like as the item passes down. You know, probably wouldn't want to leave them in there during the game, just because you might get extra lag from that. But anyway, the items are going to come down, they're going to go up the item elevator, and you're going to see them going into the chest. Add full hopper speed. Yeah. So this is probably what I would consider to be the most useful design for, you know, actually using in the game, because it's very fast. You know, it's certainly faster than most other multi-item sorters, you know, by at least twice the speed. And finally, to go over just testing the boundaries of what I could actually make, this isn't really useful for anything, but this is a double hopper speed, right? So if we just get some items here. So you can see we have 4 droppers actually pointing into one chest, you know, and you can make this as tall as you wanted, if you wanted to. I mean, not really good for much in survival, but let's see, where'd my other blocks go? Thought I just pulled more blocks out. There they are, stone block, yeah. So you can see it pulls down 2 at a time because we have the 2 hoppers below it. And I mean, that first stack is already gone. Yeah, and so it puts items in 2 at a time very quickly. So overall, I mean, I think that's pretty cool, because I don't know any, you know, double hopper speed multi-item sorters like that. That's, you know, completely silent and, you know, pretty neat. But anyway, so because I think this is probably the most useful design, I'll just give a little, you know, quick tutorial on how you actually put this thing together. It's pretty easy. You're going to have this, if this is your last layer, you're always going to need an overflow chest. So we put down your chest and we'll get some droppers. Right, so we're gonna put our first chest here. Okay, into the back of the droppers, we're gonna put 2 hoppers. And you can see how many blocks we need down here on the bottom. But all you do is put down blocks like that. Okay, because we're gonna be putting repeaters there. Let's see. And I need some dust. Dust there, and we want comparators coming off of the 2 hoppers there. Okay, so pretty easy. I mean, really quick and compact, right? So blocks going next to the droppers. We're going to put blocks over the redstone, and then in front of the redstone, you just want another layer. 2 blocks there. Don't want to forget the 2 hoppers. Okay, and then comparator there. I mean, so it's pretty easy design to make. I'll just make one more. So blocks next to the droppers, blocks above the redstone, and then in front of it. Yeah. I always forget to put the hoppers on. Alright. And redstone. Okay, finally, because you're always going to need, you know, 2 extra hoppers for your input. So I just put a hopper down. We need to put a torch right there. And then I want a hopper facing back. You don't want to put the hoppers pointing down because that'll break it. And finally, you want to put a dust there, but if we leave the dust like that, of course it's not, first of all, it's not powering the repeater, so that'll break, and then second of all, it's not going to be powering this block. So you just want to put a block on top of it to separate those 2. And then you can put a chest on top. That's going to be your input. So if I just grab just a stack of junk, whatever. Alright. So it's going to be full hopper speed going into the first chest. Alright, now if you wanted to make the first part of it here, that actually goes back to the dropper elevator. What you're going to have to do is come down a couple blocks below with your hopper line. And the reason why is because if I go ahead and build this up, okay, because if you're going to be putting your droppers here, right, because that'll be your first chest, so you're going to want the overflow from those two droppers to come straight down. Excuse me. So you can put, either one pointing down and then just have the other hopper pointing into that one. And then below that, go ahead and run a line. And the reason why you have to have it down in the ground is because our hoppers here for the sorter are going to be right above it, So if we had a hopper line here, then whenever an item came into this hopper, it's going to get pulled down immediately before it can even make it to the dropper, so that would break it. Oh, and that got pulled down. So you're just going to want to put your hoppers in the ground, and then you can just go ahead and make this like you normally would. Just blocks next to the droppers, like that, like that. Okay, so that's how you make one layer, and then you just keep, stacking them up like that. And, your input, I keep it at the top. I mean, it's easy, especially now that you don't have to worry about reaching up above you. I mean, you just climb a flight of stairs to get into your item sorter, and you could block all this up if you wanted to make it prettier, whatever. Yoink. Block all in front of that. But whatever, that's up to you. So that pretty much wraps it up with the dropper item sorters. If anybody had any questions, or if anybody wanted to have any more information about how these are made, or if you had any other ideas, you can let me know in the comments. But I wanted to go ahead and just finish this off with something else I was thinking about. So I don't know, I just come up with these ideas because I've never seen anybody else do it. So this is something else that I've been looking at, right? So this is another multi-item sorter, okay? And the way that this works is that's going to be your input, right? And you're going to have this rotating, column of chests here, or in this case barrels. Now this does take, a while, depending on how many chests you have and where your item is, but okay. So you put your items up in the top, it will automatically search for the chest that the items are supposed to go into, and it will start putting them in there. And you can see that first of all, whenever it's not doing anything, it just stays still, right? So you can push a button here if you want to rotate it. But I was thinking that instead of just leaving it to where you can rotate it, so I made this system automatic by just you can use a piece of paper and we're gonna have to go the entire rotation again. But you can use a piece of paper on each for each chest that you have, and just put it into the item sorter, and it will automatically, find where the chest is. Depending on whatever the item is or whatever the piece of paper is. So we'll give this a minute. So I was looking for smooth stone. Okay, so there you go. And because I already have the, a second piece of paper, that's how it finds it. It tries to, put the item into a chest, and this is the only place that the paper can go. And of course you can, do whatever you want with this. It doesn't have to be, all smooth stone. You can have, whatever you want in here. Like I have one for redstone. I don't know where that one is. Okay. Yeah, so you have one for redstone, and you can put whatever you want in there. So I'll put a couple torches, whatever, right? Because it is a multi-item sorter. So now if I put the torches in here, then it's automatically going to find the chest and put the torches in. And then I can just take whatever I want if I want to take some out. And if you put multiple items in, like, let's see, what else did I have? The smooth stone. So of course, if I go ahead and put, I'll just put a few. Yeah. So it's going to automatically search for each chest. It's going to search for a chest, put the items in, and then search for the other chest to put the items in. And it sounds pretty complex, but it's not really. Ah, can't fly. And the total amount of, spaces that I have here to put barrels, this is either 30 or 31. And you can actually put a lot. This is probably one of the most expandable item sorters in the game, considering it uses 2 hoppers, right? 2 hoppers, 2 comparators, 2 repeaters, a handful of torches and some dust. The only other thing is that you're going to have the 4 pistons with 3 observers. So, I mean, it's not a lot of material. It's cheap. I mean, it is really cheap. And this is like 30 chests, so that's about, 16 double chests? And considering that you can actually expand this, and if you wanted to, you could go up to, hundreds of chests. I mean, literally. If you wanted to, just because you can do weird things with pistons like this, to where, you can have this whole giant line of pistons that's going in all kinds of different directions, because as long as you never hit, over the max of 12 chests being pushed by a piston, I mean, you can pretty much make it infinite. The only problem is that it takes forever for all those chests to get cycled through to be able to find an item. So if you wanted to make a system really large like this, it would be good for probably long-term storage. It's like just having like a bunch of double chests in the basement that you never go look at. But otherwise, so I'll go over how this is made. So I have one that's kind of broken down here. So you're going to have your first, wherever your line is, you're going to have your first, hopper pointing into that one, and then have a second hopper pointing into that. You come off with a comparator block. You need a conductive block here in front of the hopper. So the point of this is that whenever we put items in here, you're going to have one item in that hopper, one item stuck in this hopper, and then the rest of the items stuck in the chest. Okay, that's until it finds the chest that it needs to go in. And the reason why is because we need this torch to stay turned off, but as soon as it finds the chest that the item goes into, we need this torch to blink, right? Because that's keeping the clock turned off. Okay, because this is It's not very complicated, but okay, but we're using a clock here to actually power a one-tick generator to power this piston. Okay, so if we didn't have this lock here, right? So then let me take some redstone so we can see what happens, right? Alright, so it just passed up the redstone chest. Okay. So we had, what, 19, now we're down to 16. Okay, so it's going to... That's not it. Okay, so the second chest here is our redstone chest, right? And there it goes. Okay, so the reason why it's not stopping is because we have all these items in here, and this comparator is always going to keep this torch turned off, which is going to let the clock run. Okay, and the clock is just firing the piston. So we need to have a certain amount of time for the items to, leave that hopper so the comparator can turn off. See, because as soon as the comparator turns off, this torch turns on. So we have a little pulse extender here that's actually keeping this clock turned off. So this is the reason why it's not just continually cycling and cycling, otherwise it would just never turn off. So anyway, you have a torch coming off, going to a little pulse extender, which is just, a comparator with dust on the front and back side and then over the top. That's going to a repeater because you're going to want your repeater, because if you didn't have the repeater, this pulse extender may or may not turn off. And, the repeater just adds one extra tick to keep it running, to keep this line powered. So anyway, the clock that I found with the 4 pistons like that, the best clock that I found is just 4 ticks on a repeater going up and powering, a torch that's powering the repeater, which you can see like that. Okay. And that's coming up to a 1-tick generator. Now the reason why we're using this is because I don't want, 5 ticks of redstone to be powering this piston, because then it's just going to stay extended forever. I want it to extend and then immediately retract, because that means that it can be out of the way as soon as possible for this piston over here to fire it. Okay, and aside from that, to actually rotate it manually, you just have a redstone line which is going up to also power the 1-tick generator. Okay, so this is a little bit more compact. So you can see we have our input with the hoppers, comparator, torch, all that. There's our little pulse extender there, going to the repeater, which is going to the clock. Okay, and the clock, the dust down here, right? So whenever this torch turns on, like that. So whenever the torch turns on, that's just going to be powering that redstone dust there. So that powers this 1-tick generator, which is the torch with the block above it with this torch. And when you have both of those going into dust or powering the dust, which is this 2 little lines here, that's going to turn off this torch, right? Which I don't know why I broke it, but okay, so the torch goes up this little glass elevator, or glass ladder, or whatever you call it, and that is what is powering the piston. Okay, and to do the little manual button, all I have is a little redstone line coming from behind it, and that's going down into the bottom of the 1-tick generator. Alright, so pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You know, and you can literally, I mean, you can put, you can put chests in here if you want. You're gonna have to make sure that you have glass and none of these, no other block, because then otherwise you won't be able to open the chest. But just keep in mind that if you do put an extra chest in here, you're gonna have to fill it up with items. Otherwise, anytime I put something in there in this order, it's just going to try to fill up that chest. And also, I don't know if a lot of people realize this with observers, but if I wanted to make something like this, like you can see how I have just an observer here with a piston on top with dust, right? The reason why is because the observer detects when this block in front of it is moving, and that will fire the piston after the block gets in front of the piston, So that's why you can make something like that, because I think a lot of people do a setup like this, where you have an observer. So if I'm going to be pushing any blocks, right? So a lot of people will do it to where, if my items are coming from this direction, then what they will do is put an observer here to see whenever the block gets in front of it. But of course, with Bedrock, you can't just make that easy, because you're going to have a never-ending clock here. So then you have to go through the trouble of powering a repeater, and then powering a repeater on 2 ticks going into that to lock that repeater. So it will only fire 1 time. But I mean, the easier way to do it is to just get rid of all that. Is to just put your observer, anywhere down the line, and then you can put a block behind it with dust. And then that way, if I power this, see, one tick, or actually, 3 ticks, whatever. But 2 ticks after this moves in front of the observer, it's going to fire off the piston. So you don't have to worry about it clocking, and you don't have to worry about needing repeaters or anything. Alright, so I thought that was pretty neat that you could fit so much items. Of course, it takes a while to sort it out, but still, it's automatic item sorter. You just put all the items in, and it'll automatically find the chest and then put the item in. And it's really compact, and it's probably the cheapest item sorter, especially multi-item sorter. This is like the cheapest thing in the game. I mean, honestly, what do we got? 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're using 14 iron to make this, and it can fit, I mean, I don't know, a lot of chests. It can fit a whole lot of chests. But anyway, so that's about it. That is all of the new item sorter tech that I have so far. So, thank you for watching, and have a good one.